Mm.
Hello, hello. Always, always good and interesting to see who shows up on Super Bowl Sunday. And
Mm.
when, so we know you're really sacrificing your football game and Bad Bunny. We're happy you're here.
For some, it's an opposite of
Yeah. Mm.
some of us.
Refuge. It's good to see you all. Yeah. Mm. And we're glad the storm has been rather intense here, but no real power problems. And just right now, the wind died down, the rain died down, so we're ready to sit. Yeah. So yeah, let's just get started. Finding your seated posture, taking your time to get settled, get comfortable, whatever degree of stability and comfort you can find. And the invitation is always to let the eyes come to close, in part because we're just so oriented visually to the world around us, and that is very locked into a kind of conceptual relationship of ourselves to the world, which of course is very useful and largely functional and helpful, and actually rather amazing when we start to really understand the mechanics involved in sense perception, cognition, conceptualizing the patterns that keep us bound to certain dynamics, and the process of disentangling, unbinding, unhooking from the unconsidered perpetuation of these patterns, just through understanding, observation. But it is a different kind of observation, a different kind of understanding that is asked of us, that's required. It's related to this just experiential mindfulness, investigation that's not conceptual, coming into closer and closer relationship to these processes and the more subtle nuance that becomes available to us as we develop these capacities. So we close the eyes. and start to really try to explore the quality of attention that is possible in regard to these sense experiences. Often in the realms of taste, and smell are less pronounced during a period of meditation, of course, depending on our conditions around us. The eyes closed, the visual experience is simplified, there's shape and color, light, change on all of these aspects. We have sound, sometimes can feel more pronounced. The stream of changing vibration received in the physical base of the ear. This particular sensitivity to vibration, tone, timbre, movement in the air. Here we do see again this amazing tendency to conceptualize what we think we're hearing, to interpret. And it's not a problem that this unfolds. The problem is the confusion between what is the sound and what is the idea. The lack of clarity between mind and body, the physical based sensation of hearing, the knowing of that, ideas about it, the preferences that are experiences of the mind, constructions of the mind. And not only can we distinguish them, there's an ability to incline more towards one than the other. And since there's such a deep conditioning to incline towards the conceptual, here there's this encouragement. Try to connect and sustain the attention with the sounds themselves. And just that simple act simple experiment and exploration, even for a few moments, of one sound arising and passing, has very powerful implications in regard to understanding, to wisdom, to insight. Not that the concentration itself, but when we see the distinction, so much of what we long to learn, the seeds of which are found right in just a few moments of close connection and honest observation. And the same is true in the body. This huge range of physical sensations, pressure, hardness, softness, tension, release, tingling, coolness, warmth, moisture, dryness. And then the thoughts about those things, the images that arise in the mind, imagining them, our ideas, our judgments, our emotions in regard to them. Relationship between emotion and body, very powerful, very interwoven. Very important to see clearly. And so the mind itself is important to see. The thoughts, the wanderings, worryings, all flavors of knowing and thinking, feeling, the emotional sense, visual imagining, sound imagining, body imagining. So the encouragement is generally to try to find again this concurrent relationship with some experience. The body, maybe the whole body seated, a more narrow field like where the hands are touching the knees or each other, or the rising and falling of the breath at the abdomen. Noticing movement, tension, release, building pressure, pausing, decreasing pressure. Hardness, softness in the body. Or a stream of sounds at the ear door. Paying close attention. And watching the mind involved in this process. We feel pressure and we notice it. That noticing, that awareness is something we can notice and be aware of. The mind itself is included in this chain of events. Whether it's noting or wandering, a sense of me watching is something we watch. Everything that occurs in the mind-body continuum ultimately needs to be included. And yet we can stay just simply with the breath, the body, or sound. Whatever we notice is worthy of our attention, deepening our understanding moment by moment.
Thank you, Jesse, for your instructions. There is a book of question and answers by Sri Nisargadatta Maharaj, and a very poignant but simple question was asked of him. The question is, there was a background, long question. This person was very upset about the state of the world and all the terrible things happening. And so he said to Sri Nisargadatta, people are stupid, selfish, and cruel. And Nisargadatta said, people are also wise, affectionate, and kind. And I think this is, at these times we're living in, so important to remember there are people who are wise, affectionate, and kind, and that we aspire for that inwardly and outwardly. I think sometimes where we live, we don't often notice ordinary birds. We might notice that we are looking for the non-ordinary birds. So where I live, how that plays out are mourning doves. Now, I think there are mourning doves all over North America. They're in Hawaii. But they're so present, it's almost like I don't notice them. The other day I was taking a walk up the street, and my walks are they've been mostly strolls for some time now. And I sometimes think the birds actually think I might be a bird or something, that they're so accustomed to me being around, and talking with them. So I noticed this really young female dove, and she was carrying this huge twig, way too big for her, and it kept dropping and picking it up, dropping it. It looked so hard. And then that happened the next day. Then the next day, she had smaller twigs. And the next day, she had these beautiful soft grasses. And I realized she was learning how to make her first nest. Like she had never made a nest before, right? And she had to learn, over days how to make the nest. And I think that sometimes when we hear that people can be wise, affectionate, and kind, that we should be born that way. That we don't have to learn, right? We have to learn all these aspects of the spiritual world that are so important. We've had a very large storm come through Hawaii, and late afternoon yesterday, the storm started to come and the winds were really gusting really high. And Jesse and I went in outside in this kind of crazy rain and wind, and sitting on this overlook where there's cattle, many cattle across the gulch. And you usually will see these beautiful white egrets. They're very tall white birds, but they're usually sitting on the cattle. And these egrets are not a native bird. They were brought here to eat the flies and ticks and insects off the cattle. One of these human predicaments where they are an invasive species now. Um, when they fly, they're extraordinarily beautiful, especially when they're in a flock. So yesterday, uh, at sunset, they tend to normally flock in the northerly direction or northwest direction. We don't know where they go, uh, but they couldn't do it. Like I've never seen it. They're known to be good flyers, and they would just, get up out of the gulch on top of the cattle. They even had a little bit of a boost from being on top of the cattle, and they would just get pushed way down the valley, and then they would come up really low, trying to stay as low as they could. They couldn't do it. It was amazing to watch this over and over. And then they had to just lay low, right? In hardship, lay low. Uh, very inspiring to see uh, these ranges of how nature um, presents itself, the pleasant, unpleasant, the joy and sorrow. So by last night, um, the gusts of wind were so intense. It just felt like objects were being thrown against the windows and thrown against the house. Usually it's not a kind of night you can sleep well. And I had this idea that Godzilla was just trying to visit, right? Godzilla was trying to like find a way into the house, but Godzilla never gave up. And I just had this sense like, oh, wow, what's it gonna look like outside tomorrow morning? Like it's just like, who can survive it? Which plants, which trees survive this kind of intensity of wind? Yeah. And of course, some some didn't. A lot more survived than I thought, and that's what's also amazing when you see the intensity. Like this was the roar of Godzilla, the roar of his gusts. Yeah, and it made me think about a poem that was given me when I was in high school by a friend years ago, by Wallace Stevens. It's called The Snowman. One must have a mind of winter to regard the frost and the boughs of the pine trees crusted with snow, and have been cold a long time to behold the junipers shagged with ice, the spruces rough in the distant glitter of the January sun, and not to think of any misery in the sound of the wind, in the sound of a few leaves, which is the sound of the land, full of the same wind that is blowing in the same bare place. For the listener who listens in the snow and nothing himself beholds nothing that is not there and the nothing that is. I hope you all know that poem because it's quite a important winter poem, or a poem for hardship, hard times. Of course, the question is, what is the mind of winter? And in this poem, you really get that sense of like there's an intention to understand rather than to judge. Yeah, that it's about nature as it is. And there's so many um, beautiful aspects of this, but you hear that the seeing, there's the seeing. It's like a seeing meditation and then a hearing meditation, and to just keep going and, right? And it's like free of the judgments and assumptions, seeing nature as it is. Vipassana is being with the nature of how things are. So there's this listening, and finally, with all those ands, you're being asked to be humble. So there's like the asking us to have a seeing and a hearing that's not based on any past memory. Just the Jesse describing the practice with the sense doors. It's just seeing clearly things as they are. So do we see winter as miserable, right? Misery in the sound of the wind. Or do we see beauty as well? But there's so much in this, right? There's that ending with beholding, right? There's a beholding, seeing and hearing for the listener who listens in the snow, and nothing himself beholds, sees nothing that is not there, and the nothing that is. Ah, a lot of us, I think, really appreciate the Brahmavihara of compassion. We've certainly been working with it a lot this last month in January at the retreat. And I think sometimes we've heard of the Bodhisattva of compassion, Kuan Yin, and whether we have a sense of her as a goddess, really, a Bodhisattva, or a metaphor. It's said that she can hear all the cries in this world. Here again, hearing, right? The sense story. She can hear all the cries in this world, but she can hear all the laughter in this world. And I think if that's not taught well, again, it's these imbalances. It's like compassion without mudita, loving kindness, compassion, empathetic joy, equanimity. It's like these are taught with balance, so but when you think of her caring about the pain and the sorrow, the despair, all the pain in the world, the dukkha, even if we took the three characteristics of existence, anicca, impermanence, her caring, all pervading caring about the fragility and fleetingness of existence, something we can learn to practice. Yeah, we're not necessarily born with this all pervading compassion as humans. Yeah, so it's like that we're capable of understanding this compassion for mortality itself and change. And the dukkha, the second characteristic of existence, of the unreliability of experience. Just that, because of the fleetingness of experience, the unreliability, the vulnerability that all beings share. We all share this vulnerability, not just with humans, but that we could really care about that. All pervading care. And to the insubstantial nature of every moment. Yeah, the carelessness, uncontrollability. This again, just all beings who give birth here. There's a saying I've heard when I was young. Um, I have wintered into wisdom, and it's from the story Beowulf, and it's spoken by the king, King Hrothgar. Uh, is trying to teach the young hero Beowulf, and the king says, "I will no longer think of myself as aging." He got old and wanted to help mentor this young person, the young hero. "I will no longer think of myself as aging, but being wintered into wisdom." And again, it can be winter, but it can be the hardship of life. Yeah, it's the wintering, the hardships of life. So he's reminding Beowulf of the fragility and fleetingness of nature, right? And so he goes on to really, it's beautiful. Seamus Heaney has a great translation, but it's so beautiful how out of his own passing winters, he's trying to teach him, he's warning him not to succumb to pride, warning him to remember the fleetingness of existence, right? And I think that he's really trying to tell him what we see. This is not a new thing, that we're living in times where there's so much greed, right? Or so much rage being played out. It's like he said to him, avoid wealth and power for its own sake. That's the king saying that. Avoid wealth and power for its own sake. One rules badly if possessions take hold of your heart. And there's some word like, beware of arrogance, world famous champion. Here we have a Super Bowl, but here's the world's famous champion, arrogance. Yeah. But a little while lasts my life. 'Twill happen full early, excellent hero, that death shall subdue you. So who do we listen to? What do we listen to? Kuan Yin, like this amazing thing to say. She hears all our cries, not just humans, all beings' cries, all our laughter. But do we really hear that? Do we actually appreciate that? This karuna, this compassion infused with wisdom. And how do we listen back, right? What is our relationship to compassion in our lifetime? Yeah, do we just assume it's going to stop somewhere and not develop? If it wasn't there when we were young, do we give up? But it's like we can look at that little first first mom that's learning how to make a nest, and we can deepen our relationship to the learning about compassion. Yeah. So in some ways, it's like just like we do with the sound of a bird or the sound of a car, with the practice, the sound of the rain, the sound of silence. Um, we can approach compassion with the Vipassana investigation. Like there's never been that same moment of the first breath we take, or this next sound, or the next breath, the next body sensation. They're always new. Well, compassion is always new. And do we feel our way into it? Are we in a hurry? Do we rush through it? Or do we really try to receive it? Really try to receive care, caring about pain, or the receiving or sending, abiding in. It's like, and not trying to fix anything, not trying to get rid of anything. Being so connected to the pain, but not entangled in it. So we use these examples of hearing, seeing, but there's a sense of like the deep gaze of Kuan Yin, the deep, this all-pervading care. Uh, there's a haiku by Chosu, Chosu. Broken and broken again on the sea, the moon so easily mends. She's often seen as the full moon, the bodhisattva of compassion. Broken and broken again on the sea, the moon so easily mends. That's our heart. When I first met the Zen teacher Aiken Roshi in Honolulu many years ago, in the 80s, we started to have a lunch together once a month. And we came from very different Buddhist traditions. We were very different. I think we both enjoyed that. But one day, he starts lunch by saying, I'm going to give you a koan. And I have to say, I can't think of the worst thing you could say to me. Like, it's like I so had 100% resistance to koans. Like I never, I wanted to say to him, look, I didn't even study Zen for a reason. Like, I'm not, and I said it as strongly as I could. I'm like, I am not going lunch over, whatever. But he started laughing and he gave me a koan and he said, okay. He like sighed. He's like, okay, sigh. How old is Kuan Yin? And I'm like, I'm not going to even try. Like, you might as well tell me because I can't do riddles. I can't do koans. I'm not going to do it. And he waited a long time. And I'm like, okay, like, do you get it? I'm not, not gonna get this. And he said, okay. He said, okay, Michele, how old are you? And I'm like, oh, I can do this. I don't know how old I was, like 35. I'm like, oh, I'm 35. Like Kuan Yin's 35. Yay, I got the koan. Okay, everybody. That's all of you. How old are you? How old is Kuan Yin? Yeah. Kuan Yin is however old you are. Yeah. And then you get to live up to that when you get the koan. Yeah, then you get it. There's a quotation attributed to the Bodhisattva of compassion, Kuan Yin. The winds of circumstance blow across emptiness. Whom can they harm? The winds of circumstance blow across emptiness. Whom can they harm? Ah. You can't be the Bodhisattva of compassion without deep equanimity, deep wisdom. It's like unconditional acceptance of how things are. peace with all appearances. And of course, this is not a talk totally about equanimity, but it is really about, again, how are we learning to be kind, wise, affectionate? And so unconditional acceptance about how things are does not mean we live with indifference and denial and naivete that can look so much like equanimity, but isn't. Yeah. Not caring and looking like you're totally okay is very different than being deeply connected to the pain in the world, but not entangled. Very different. And so the Buddha called these four pairs, he called them the worldly winds, pain, pleasure, gain, loss, praise, blame, fame, disrepute. Yeah, the worldly winds. And so we can have that denial or indifference or naivete with those worldly winds, or we can have the reaction, yeah, of aversion, fear, anger, rage, or attachment, clinging, desire, craving, addiction, yeah, or with the confusion, the delusion. Um, it's just important to understand where that genuine, pure goodness of caring about pain can come from. And it requires a lot of practice. It takes a lot of drowning in the pain when you connect and not having enough equanimity, or you think you have enough equanimity, but you actually end up moving away from the pain and disconnecting from the pain. Yeah, it's like it's practice. And we tend to think of practice that you're going to just go straight up and out of the reacting to pain and the indifference, denial, right? But actually, if you do the practice, they'll get more clear. They'll come up more. Their defenses against pain, they'll start feeling safe to reveal themselves. So I think sometimes of that new mom with the trying to learn how to make the nest, and she just kept trying to carry the big twig, not being able to even fly. It's like that's how compassion practice is. You might get too big a dose of the news, right? And can't do it. Mhm. Which kind of leads a little bit, that talk is all about I've had this really intense chronic pain in my neck and shoulder for a long time now, many, many, many months, and it's getting more intense. And I've gotten quite impatient with walking by my gardens that have had a lot of neglect anyway this year. But I had this one little part that was like supposed to be just a little garden for these little cats who died. We don't have her body, but it's just to honor her. It was a place she liked to hang. And I started something. I found a few more plants to add to it. I'm right-handed, and I thought I could. I thought this is total denial. I thought I could do it, right? I really wanted to do it. I thought I could do it. I'm so glad I did it in some ways, but it made things worse. But at the time, what I noticed is I finished, I stood up, I kind of looked at it. And instead of feeling the goodness of that I did it and how good it was I did it. I could only focus on that I didn't do enough. I don't know if you're this type, but this type usually veers into self-hatred very easily, or, you know, merciless judgment. And I was noticing how I had missed that sense of like, it's not good enough. Yeah, which is when you look at the mudita, the appreciative joy practice, it's like where it can start to go bad is worthlessness, you know. And I think that that place um, has become a very interesting place for me to look at, because what I'm starting to do is when I see it, because I'm good at it, I can do that with most anything. I start to just shift. It's like I do 100, no, it's a 360. It's a 360, and I just focus on what I did well. Now, I think this is really important culturally and for our times, because somehow I'm going to get into feeling defeated by certain things soon, but that sense of being able to, just like we could work on receiving compassion a little more than we might be these days, we might brush it over and not really let it into the body, or really infuse an area of the world or the country. Yeah, like however it plays out, or the egrets that can't fly. You know, there's all kinds of opportunities, but also to see where you might particularly get good at, have gotten good at being disappointed in yourself in some way. And depending on what's happening in your life, when you have a lot of hardship, you really are not able to accomplish what you might have accomplished at another point. Mm. This is in the spirit of what I've been saying. Last Sunday, I shared a poem just at the very end, but I said the poem was by Li Po, and it isn't, it's by Saigyo. All week it's been nagging at me that I'd say who it's by. Saigyo, who was born 1118, died 1190 in Japan. Li Po was from China. So anyway, I'll um, do the poem with a word I couldn't remember. It's a follow-up to the snowman. Winter has withered everything in this mountain place. Dignity is in its isolation now, and beauty in the cold clarity of the moon. Mm. And Sego is, you might remember, he's the one who talks so much about his hardships, like dealing with melancholy, dealing with loneliness as a monk in the forest, a recluse monk, you know, befriending right grasshoppers and rain and the moon. Yeah, it's just like Tomo. The word Tomo just appears over and over in his poems as companion. Melancholy, his companion. Yeah, loneliness, his companion. Joy, his companion. So he included everything as a companion. And of course, that's a practice. That's a spiritual friend. That's really metta. And so much people yearn for summer. Yeah. Summer in their lifetime, anytime they're going through, or rather than kind of appreciating all four seasons that we have to live through. And with the gratitude or appreciative joy, if I am in a hurry and I can't take the time like I'm suggesting we do sometimes if you just take one in breath and infuse it with gratitude, Just one in breath, just one out breath. Infuse it with gratitude. It's enough. It's enough to be practicing the mudita. I would say my older sister is going through as difficult a winter as aging can offer us. And she will describe sometimes what she's going through, and she's so close to the wisdom. It's so intense for me to listen to, because she'll talk about, it's very painful, she's having so much aversion to the pain, and she's feeling defeated by it. And the other day she's like, I see there's no escape. Like there's going to be no escape for me now with this. And she's having a lot of anxiety and depression because of that. And I will try to joke with her about how close she is. Like I'm like, this is so close. I'm like, you're so wise. But she won't hear it. Like that's not going to be heard right now. But I don't give up. Um, but if in the last month of the retreat, and you can hear with some questions at times, it's like the question of like, what do we get defeated by, right? It's there's this range of pleasant and unpleasant and neutral. We're born, right? If we take birth, we're born into this stream of pleasant, unpleasant, neutral, of change, and it's very fast. And the Buddha taught that karma is unfathomable. Yeah, it's unfathomable. The winds of circumstance, that's the karma, right? Not personal, the winds of circumstance, but definitely can feel personal sometimes. So, but if you look at the Vipassana progress of insight, if you look at carefully like this, I'm not going to go through them all, but just the sort of shifting of this intention to understand reality rather than to judge it. Yeah, over and over again, our human predicament is that we will go up into conceptual and judge it, versus choosing to connect and be there with whatever's happening, um, without the conceptual knowledge, right? Just being, just being. Uh, and often with pain, there will be hidden resistance, hidden aversion to the undependability, right, of existence, the unreliability, the vulnerability. So when we understand things as they are, we don't have to go as a teacher, let go, let go. It's like you let it be. That desire to fix it, manipulate, get rid of, that practice of just letting something be, like the pain in the shoulder. The word pain is just a word, but as Jesse was describing with the physical sensations, what is the actual experience, right? It's tight for me, right? Tightness, burning, whatever, but it's like not the word pain. And what we usually get defeated by is that it will feel permanent, or it will feel like um, we don't like it, we don't want it, and we're not able to shift to being mindful of that. And I'm not just talking here about physical pain, I'm talking about mental pain, emotional pain, any kind of repetitive thought patterns that we don't like, all the outer issues in the world that are basically caused by greed, hatred, and delusion. But with the Vipassana practice, the encouragement, right, is to start getting so close to the experience with the mindfulness, and that we're starting to see that it's going so fast, it's so uncontrollable. And there will be um, a desire for deliverance. There will be a stage. That's why I joke with my sister about she's so close. There will be a stage where we'll start to feel defeated. And then there'll be this huge upwelling of the desire for freedom from this prison we got born into, right? Thinking that I am my body, I am my mind, I am my heart, right? And that somehow we can escape death. Yeah. So what happens is, rather than um, going into anxiety and to depression from understanding there's no escape, understanding there's no escape, the teachers are all going, yay, good, great. That's great practice, right? That's like your way, that's the ticket to getting that. It's we call it disenchantment, but there's so much there. It's like when we understand there's no escape except through complete understanding. There's no escape but through wisdom, right? Through understanding the nature of how things are. And you go, it's like when we shift into that unconditional acceptance, it feels more wonderful than anything in the world. Freedom, freedom is the most wonderful accomplishment. It's where we all smell it. It's home. We have a homing instinct for home, for freedom. Mm. This is a short little poem by Isa Kobayashi. Isa, I think of all the beings I've ever heard their stories, their personal stories, he has probably suffered more than most. Born many years ago, of course, Japanese poet. This is a haiku I found recently by him. If my grumbling wife were still alive, I just might enjoy tonight's moon. I hope you all heard that. I'll try again. If my grumbling wife were still alive, I just might enjoy tonight's moon. You could say this about anything you're having trouble with. It's so profound. It's really what the talk's about. Oh. When I was a senior, yeah, tonight's moon. I just might enjoy tonight's moon. Is that right? You got, okay, yeah. Um,
It's just your voice dropped out, and
oh,
it might not
okay.
have heard.
This is a longer story than I can share all of, but when I was a senior in a very conservative colleges, I just wanted to get to graduate, but the college had required a lot out of me that I wasn't achieving very well. But we had to do 2 years of student teaching. So in most colleges, you did in that time you did a half a year at the most, but we had to do 2 years of it. And so my junior year, I was going to jump to another story, but I'm not going to. I'm going to just settle on to my junior year. Before I knew that the powers that be were going to come down hard on me for the places I chose to go do my student teaching, because that's how it was. I was not conservative enough for them in those years. So I chose this kindergarten class in this area of the city that the kids all went to school. They only spoke Spanish. They didn't speak English. Uh, and it was a very harsh area for these kids to try to get an education, and the schools weren't that good in that area. So I heard of a teacher there who was wonderful, and I asked if I could be there. I still, when I think of her, this teacher, my heart just starts pounding with joy. Um, so she was the only teacher at that time in the city. I don't know anywhere else that would speak Spanish to the kids. And she helped them learn through speaking Spanish, of course, how to learn English. Um, and she had aquariums all over the place and happy everything, like the walls were covered with happy things and it was colors and beautiful. And if there was any problem whatsoever at any time in that half year I was there, no matter where she was, it was this huge room, no matter where she was, she could just whisper. She barely whispered. She never had the kids all sitting down. They were always all over the place learning in these learning places. And she would whisper, and every kid would stop, turn around and look at her and listen to what she had to say, no matter what it was. This was a wild group that came in there, and I can't tell you how much I learned from her, because why? Why did they listen to her, right? Why would they stop, no matter who it was? Why would they stop, turn around, and look at her? Because they loved her. They loved her because she loved them so much, and she respected them so much, their language, their culture, that she loved them so much, and they loved her so much. And I'll never forget it. It was just the most, it's, that's a teacher, right? Of course, then my school did not like that I was there. And I was sent the next half year to the first grade that these kids went into. It was just the opposite. They had the most shut down, non-listening, um, rigid, difficult personality teacher. And by a couple weeks, they had all forgotten English. They all hated school. The next year, I was sent to even more rough, like not rough schools, but difficult teachers just to teach me a lesson. But I would say that the lesson was how rare it is to find someone like that. And she stuck it out. She's she was older than me, so maybe she's retired. But this lady knew what she was doing with her life, right? And she did it. So when I started the talk with, yeah, people can be cruel, right? But people can be kind, wise, affectionate, and we can learn it. And we all have to learn how to practice it, right? And so there's this range in this practice of love and wisdom. Dogen, the great Zen, well, he was a Japanese Zen Buddhist monk, and he lived 1200 to 1253. He was the founder of the Soto school of Zen. Enlightenment is like the moon reflected on the water. The moon does not get wet, nor is the water broken, although its light is wide and great. The moon is reflected in a puddle, even an inch wide. The moon is reflected in a puddle, even an inch wide. The whole moon and the entire sky are reflected in one dewdrop in the grass. One dewdrop is one moment. This is so important. One moment of complete understanding that doesn't go through the thought process is awakening. Yeah, it's like the whole moon, the entire sky, timeless, complete understanding without concept, right? And it's like the totality of being relaxes into this, the nothingness. But it's not something you understand conceptually. It's like you practice the being with all the practice we're doing with hearing, seeing, smelling, touching, tasting, thinking, emotion. It's that being with, being with, being with, being with. Only moment, one moment by moments. Just like the bird that's taking too big a twig, trying to do it in 5 moments. Or trying to get it all done as soon as possible, right? Trying hard versus relaxing into. But with investigation, yeah. So this is how I'd like to end the talk with another haiku. By this one is by Etsujin. Poppy petals fall softly, quietly, calmly when they are ready. Soft readiness. So it's all ripening, ripening on the tree. Yeah, that's all what we're doing in the Sangha right now. It's like ripening. Poppy petals fall softly, quietly, calmly when they are ready. May we all be ready, moment by moment, dewdrop by dewdrop. And may we all get through this winter, which is a doozy.
Thank you, Michele. And thanks everyone for coming again this week. A little announcement. We'll send an email out as well, just because you know, not everyone makes it to this point in the Sunday sitting. But Michele and I are going to be going on retreat ourselves for the next 2 months. You know, usually we try to sit for at least a month every year. And last year, neither of us were able to, just, you know, with our family obligations and stuff. So anyway, we're we're needing it, and looking forward to taking a little bit longer this year. So basically, the Sunday sitting will still happen. We really still hope people will come and sit together every week. We'll have uh, a crew of folks kind of holding the space over those kind of 8 weeks. Um, and if any Zoom emergencies happen, of course, or just here at home, it's not like we're going off anywhere. So we can attend to whatever maybe need attending to. But but aside from that, any big emergencies, mm, we'll be sitting, and we'll be sitting with you guys on Sunday, but not on Zoom. So of course we know it's sometimes we people get out of the rhythm of sitting together when we disappear for a little while. And I think, of course, some of that's to be expected. We often come back and the the group has diminished in size, um, which if it is what it is. But we really do hope that people really get that, and I think, and I do feel like people are understanding more. Of course, it's not just about Michele and I. This is like this sangha, and even though there isn't a lot of kind of space and time and kind of the technology for a lot of communication between folks and in this sort of normal framework, we still know that it's actually very important, and we have a lot of faith in that. We hope that you do as well, and are able to just really keep showing up for each other and for yourselves while we're away, um, doing this work, so that we can hopefully keep offering more and better, more better. So that's the idea. So thanks for holding each other and holding the Sangha for the next couple months while we're away. And holding us. I mean, thank you for
Yeah.
allowing us to kind of have this time. It's obvious, as you all know, it's very important, and means a lot. So we'll be in touch with the sort of details of that, and yeah, really look forward to seeing you soon. Stay warm. Stay kind to one another.
Mm.
And we'll be in touch.